welcome to the second episode of F Wonderful, the only podcast about Formula One in the world. That's how, which is obviously not true. And this is Matt Jackson. I am joined by Bryan Bailey. Finally, we got to make this work, get together for the second episode to talk about.
The other half finally showed up.
Exactly right. Yeah, the first episode was. Did you listen to the first episode yet?
You didn't send it to me.
I didn't? I thought I totally did.
No.
Oh, I think I sent you the logo.
No.
I just recorded last week. I was just like, I just want to talk about this because here's the thing. I was getting really annoyed that every podcast, everything kept on talking about how. So this was I recorded the day before we found out Imola was canceled. And so I was all jazzed up, but also I was so frustrated and annoyed that everybody talked about how Miami was a boring race. It was driving me crazy. So I just had to get it off my chest. Yeah, I know, right?
Not boring at all.
Mm-mm.
The dude who won started in ninth and won the race. Yes, it was Max Verstappen. Yes, it was in a Red Bull, but how is that? I'm sorry, you can't call that boring. He had to pass 9 cars.
Mm-mm. I think that it's one of two things. Typically, everyone thinks that boring is because there's no overtaking or crashing, and they think it's boring when the same team continues to dominate. And I just don't find any of it boring. We get this 25 times a year, or whatever it is, whatever the number is going to end up being this year. It's just every weekend's like the Super Bowl for me. I'm excited.
Yeah. What sporting event do you get a few times a month? That's 3 days long, technically.
Mm-hmm.
Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Right.
And I mean, the whole thing about Red Bull's winning everything. I was like, well, part of the game is you have to engineer and build your own car. And one team did way better at it than 9 other teams. Sorry. Mm-hmm. That we should be celebrating that, not being mad that it's boring. It's not boring.
Exactly. So I wanted to start off talking about Imola and the cancellation, but actually let's start with something different. I want to talk about the cost cap situation, Red Bull being so vastly far ahead of everybody. I heard somebody, and I don't remember who it was, mention an interesting point. And this point was that maybe the cost cap is actually working against the lower teams, not in lower teams, the teams that aren't winning, the teams that aren't Red Bull, because Red Bull's advances are so far ahead right now. The car is so much better than everybody else's. The cost cap could potentially actually keep the teams who are underneath them from spending everything that they can to try to catch up to Red Bull. What do you think of that idea?
Oh, absolutely. Because, we'll start with, Aston Martin, which, I mean, everyone says that everyone is underperforming except Red Bull. Aston Martin made a huge jump, but Aston Martin, they have plenty of money, it seems. Papa Stroll, Lawrence,
Daddy,
seems like that dude's got money, and he seems like he's willing to throw whatever he possibly can at it.
Mm-hmm.
Ferrari obviously has money, and Mercedes has way more money in the cost cap. I think the last year before the cost cap, I think Ferrari spent $500 million, and Mercedes was I think $1 million under that. So it's absolutely the cost cap. Because if we weren't of cost cap, I guarantee you Ferrari, Aston Martin, and Mercedes would all just throw money at it and would just keep building a new car every race until they got close.
Yeah.
But also Red Bull did do a better job. But if they could also just throw money in it, they would just keep trying to make the RB19 even more of a monster.
And I think that the other side of the argument, though, is really interesting because there is no cost cap on the engine. So you can spend as much money as you want to on the engine. And so where Red Bull is excelling, though, is not in the engine. It's in the aerodynamics of the car, which is really fascinating in and of itself.
Well, I mean, the Honda engine is a beast, but
it is a beast. Don't get me wrong.
But the Honda, but all the engines are homologated now. They can't change. They haven't been able to change them since September last year, and they can't change them again until 2026. So, but also the RB19 is it's very, they keep calling it efficient. It's efficient, basically. Mm-hmm. It's quick in a straight line, whereas the other cars have downforce, but it's dragging in a straight line.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, I think the cost cap is worked to a certain point because I feel like the field probably is closer, like more tightly packed. 'Cause I think what they said that between the field, it's like 3 to 4 tenths, like from Red Bull to Williams, but also at the same time, still like the other teams can't just throw money at it if they have it to catch up. So I don't know. It's not going to be a perfect system, I guess.
Yeah.
But all, in 2026, there is going to be an engine cost cap.
Right. Yeah. Which would be interesting. And that's the same. Does that coincide with Aston Martin getting their Honda engine as well?
Yeah. That 2026 is the new engine regulations and new car regulations.
And Audi joining the club? Yeah. So that's going to make 11 teams. Is that correct?
No.
Or is Audi becoming something else?
Alfa Romeo is turning into Audi.
That's right. That's what it is.
This is the last year because the Alfa Romeo, it's really Sauber. Like Alfa Romeo is really just a very glorified title sponsorship, and it's the last year of that. So it's going to be Sauber for 24 and 25, and then it's going to be Audi in 26.
Gotcha. Yeah, it's very interesting. We were talking this morning via text about how I think, Drive to Survive obviously opened up the door for so many American, I mean, internationally for sure, but certainly like America, like that's, we discovered it thanks to that show. But there's always so much confusion around the name of the constructor, the name of the engine. There's so many sponsors that are also car companies. It gets really confusing to a certain point, I think, for some people, and for myself sometimes too.
And the team that is destroying everyone else makes energy drinks.
It's an energy drink company. Exactly. Yeah.
But I mean, but outside of F1, I think that's kind of the genius of what Red Bull has done, is they've kind of made themselves synonymous with really motorsports, action sports, all that,
Yeah, absolutely. So Imola obviously, canceled, what was it, Wednesday, our time. And at first it was such a bummer, but then really realizing how catastrophic the situation was there, it made a whole lot of sense. And I think that it seemed also that FIA was sort of responding, and Formula One responding to sort of their slow response to COVID. I think they saw a disaster and were like, we need to act quickly and decisively, as opposed to like let all of the fans in and then cancel or something like that, Yeah,
because like they canceled in 2020, they canceled Australia Friday morning. And
it was Friday morning, yeah.
Yeah, like I think fans and everybody was already there. But yeah, I was glad that like F1's like, because like from what I saw, like the track itself wasn't really all that bad, like flooded wise, but it was basically like, if we put on a race where all these people are going to flock into the area, it's, to have a big event like that, you have to have police, you have to have, medical personnel. And all of those people have much more important things to do right now in that area than work an F1 race.
Yeah, exactly. And it's kind of cool too. The venue donated all the food that was going to be used for the weekend to local rescue efforts, which was a super cool move. So it was nice to see, something kind of positive come from that. And of course, an F1, in my opinion, is the most aspirational sport. And when I say, and I say it all the time, like when Sarah and I are talking, it's unnecessary in a way. But I mean that in a good way. Like, it's the sport that we have because our lives are so amazing, because we have these cars that are just like unbelievable. You don't need, this is not the Roman Colosseum. No one's fighting for their lives. So when people are truly fighting for their lives, it was nice to see that we kind of said, no, we're not going to do this today.
Yeah, we don't need to have an F1 race. And the other thing I read that, some of the infrastructure they had built at the race, like the Paddock Club, I think was going to be used as like a shelter for people who
nice. That's cool.
Like lost their homes essentially, or their homes are currently underwater. So yeah, that was cool. And, then it was like, F1 is donating $1 million to the relief efforts. Ferrari's doing the same. Nice. Like, you see the pictures and the video of Yuki in the town helping clean up. Yeah, that's cool. AlphaTauri is right there. They're in Faenza, which is like 10 minutes from Imola, I guess.
Yeah. And also, I think that Haas has a significant presence in in that
Maranello.
area as well. Yeah. So I think that people were, definitely impacted even within Formula One, which is interesting too. Yeah.
I listened to F1 Nation this morning and they had Gunter on there and they asked him, I said, because they basically rent like part of the Ferrari campus from Ferrari for their design office, I think is there. And they asked him, it said, have any of your employees, been affected? He said, yeah, affected, but to my knowledge, no one's like lost their homes or anything. So that was good to hear.
Yeah, nothing catastrophic. Thank goodness. Yeah. Well, okay, so let's bounce back a little bit before we get to Monaco. I'm just really intrigued by all the talk because, you and I listen to all the podcasts. We watch the race religiously.
All the YouTubes.
All the YouTubes. Anything that's prepping for a race, we're on it. I mean, the live feed for Formula One, the days before. And there's just so little talk about two teams in particular that I kind of notice a lot of, and it's Mercedes and Alpine. They chatter about it a little bit here and there, and most of it's surrounding is Hamilton leaving, things like that, but but it's mostly about the challenges. It's really interesting to watch the early part of the season where there's so much excitement over Red Bull, Aston Martin in particular. It's interesting. Have you noticed that, or am I just kind of reading into it because I'm such a big because I'm so really pulling for Aston Martin for sure?
There's been Mercedes talk, it's dominated, especially with, the news in the last 2 days that supposedly Ferrari is going to offer Lewis $40 million to come to Ferrari. But I think, first of all, the first thing about the whole Mercedes thing, it's like, yes, they were top dog for 8 years. Like, yes, they lost Lewis lost the title on the last, lost his record-setting 8th world title on the last lap of the season. Mm-hmm. But and then they came back and they're not top dog anymore. But it's like, but also, guys, they didn't fall to the back of the grid. They're not like fighting with Williams.
Exactly.
But there hasn't been as much talk about Mercedes, but the basic thing about Mercedes is like, they have to, the big thing is like, they got to change direction. Mm-hmm. They brought James Allison was their technical director through most of the glory years. And then he basically got promoted and they brought in Mike Elliott to kind of take over his job. Well, now they've basically had Mike Elliott and James Allison switch jobs. So James Allison's kind of in charge of the concept of the car again. Mm-hmm. But, it's just been the same thing. It's like, oh, we did it wrong. We got to change it. And the big thing that's muted a little bit is then they were bringing essentially technically a B-spec car is you have to have a different chassis from what I understand, mm-hmm. but they can't do that because of the cost cap. So basically it was essentially going to be a B-spec car minus the same chassis they're going to bring to Imola. And now it sounds like they're going to bring it to Monaco, even though Monaco's it's a street track. You can't overtake. Yeah. So, but I think there has been talk about Mercedes, like not as much, but it's been kind of the same narrative pretty much since the beginning. It's like they did.
It's a lot of George though, right? There's not, the thing is I wish there was more conversation around George Russell. I mean, he's a great driver. He's crushing in there, but there's just really not much going on right now.
Yeah. That's the thing about George is they grew him. They made him pay his dues 3 years in the slowest car on the grid.
Oof. Yeah.
And then he showed up last year and beats Lewis. Yeah, there's a whole thing about, Lewis didn't do as good because he was sacrificing himself because they were trying more parts on his car. It's like George Russell still beat Lewis in the standings last year. Yes, Lewis is ahead of him right now, but George had a DNF in his car because his car caught on fire.
All right.
Yeah, I was like, if Mercedes was still who they were, and I think there would be more talk about George, but George got bumped up to the team and he's delivered. So the thing with Alpine, there hasn't been much talk. It's but did you see that Laurent Rossi, the CEO of Alpine, came out or in the Miami weekend and basically completely publicly bashed the team.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, they've had kind of a rough start. They weren't super great in the first couple of races. And then, when Pierre took out Esteban in Australia, which, yeah, that's like the cardinal rule, but like, there's not that many races in. And like, I think they're probably still the 5th fastest team.
Maybe that's a really good point. Maybe part of, well, for one, yeah, with Rossi kind of like coming out and being real critical of the team, it was a bit of a, I think that was just a bit of a power play misdirection / like I'm flexing my muscles a little bit, and maybe even saying, "Oh, we're such a mess," wink, wink, sort of thing. Sometimes I think they do that too.
Yeah,
because I think that Otmar is, I mean, BWT loves Otmar. Like they love him.
Yeah, they followed him to the team.
Yeah, exactly. He's not going anywhere. I think this is just a little bit of a way for the fire to, I think that he started his own fire in a way, sort of like a PR stunt in a way to do that. But I think what you said about Australia is kind of exactly it. They were they 4, 5, 5, 6, something like that at the restart?
Yeah, well, Pierre, like the whole race, Pierre was in 4th. Like, he was he was trying to chase down Fernando, and there's the whole thing about red flags and the standing starts, which and that with 3 laps left, of course, everyone's just going to go for it and see what happens. But yeah, Pierre made a mistake, but I think it was a little bit of victim of the circumstance, but. I don't know. The thing with Rossi, man, that guy is, in my opinion, he's such a part-time guy with the team. He just pops in every once in a while and stirs shit up and then fades away again. Like, I mean, the whole thing with Alonso last year, I put that firmly at his feet. He completely botched that.
Yeah, it's true.
And the side note, I mean, Alonso made a great career move for once.
I mean, the best, and he's happy, he's enjoying it, he's having a good time, and I think that Daddy Stroll and Baby Stroll love him, and I think he's doing a really good job just being a team player. Yeah,
I get the sense that Alonso, he does best in an environment where they put his arm around him, where he feels wanted. I'm willing to bet Papa Stroll gave him whatever monetary demands he asked for and didn't quite, just said, yeah, sure, whatever you need.
Yeah.
I have a feeling they're probably giving him like whatever he asked for. I like Alonso. He's very open about, I'll be a villain. That's okay with me. I like that, because, F1, we're lots of money on the line. We're gladiators battling, we're going to talk a little shit.
Yeah.
But Alpine, I don't know. Alpine seems to always have issues. Like they seem like a team that they have potential, they have money, but it seems like for whatever reason they have trouble getting out of their way sometimes. But I kind of feel like what Rossi did was a bit harsh.
Yeah.
Like if he needed to give them like a dressing down, maybe do it in private, not publicly.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think also we kind of forget sometimes that these guys are like movie stars in the sense that they're getting asked about their cars and their teams, whether you're team principal, CEO, driver, whatever you are, they're getting asked about this stuff on an almost nonstop basis. And after a while, I think they break, they snap, or, want to mix it up a little bit or whatever it is. Cause I mean, if at the end of the workday, every single day you and I had to sit down and talk to somebody about how the day went, after a while, I'd be like, well, let me just tell you what I really think. I think that's what happens.
Oh, I'm sure. Because you see the media pin with just the drivers. It's just a big circle, and they just go from one person interview to the next, on and on. And they, especially if they crash into their teammate that race or they spin out. It's like, so there's going to be, I don't know how many journalists are, but say, so the 20 journalists are asking about the same damn thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And half of it is how do you feel? And which is just, I was a bit of a journalist for about 15 years because one of my side gigs was writing for a wine and spirits magazine. And it was almost like a cardinal rule within writing to not say, how do you feel? Because, or how does that make you feel or anything like that? Because that's just so unoriginal and so unnecessary. Which is why I keep giving props to Dax Shepard and his people on the F1 with DRS podcast, because when he went there to Miami with Charlie and finally came up with the gall to talk to Toto and talk to Christian, they asked him the best question ever about Zach Brown challenging them to a boxing match and a race respectively. And it made them laugh. It made them smile. It made them come up with a cheeky answer. And it was just such a joy to like see these guys light up and have a good time for a hot second.
Yeah. And the thing with, was like, I think yes, our viewers, listeners, I'm a gigantic Red Bull fanboy. Let's just get that away. But part of the reason why I like Red Bull and Christian Horner, I know some people are so on him, but like, he's kind of not afraid to I love the drama. That's part of sports. We're going to talk shit. That's part of the fun.
Yeah.
And he's never one to kind of shy away from that. That's, it's like all the guys that try to play nice guys, like everybody in that sport, they're all ruthless. They wouldn't be there if they weren't, but it's like, can we just stop acting and trying to be the nice guy?
Right.
So
yeah, just have a good time.
Yeah.
I think that it's such a unique sport in the sense that you've got people who are there for one season. You've got people who are there for the entire career. You've got people who are in the sport for 35 years building the best cars, whatever it is. And so it's very, I hate the word incestuous, but I think you know what I mean when I say it. Yeah. It's just people are constantly crossing over teams and they're always there. And so you breed this really interesting love-hate relationship with everybody, because the world would not be the world we live in without Toto versus Christian. And, and that they hate and kind of love each other, because it just wouldn't, this world wouldn't exist in how like fantastic it is without those two sort of main characters.
Yeah. And the thing with Max and Lewis, like, I'm sorry, but I refuse to believe, let's say if Lewis retires and Max, for whatever reason, doesn't want to be at Red Bull, are you seriously going to tell me that Toto won't be on the horn to Max's agent if he was available? Like, come on. The past is the past. Like, that's a results business, and they're going to want the best, and vice versa. And if Max left Red Bull and Lewis was available, you tell me that they wouldn't at least go, do we call Lewis?
Right.
He's available. Right. I mean,
it's why Ferrari's rumored to be, courting Lewis for a year or two. It's just how it is.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about that? Because I have thoughts about that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Again, I'm like, if they think they can get Lewis for a year or two, I mean, he's on equal terms with Michael Schumacher. I think technically he has more race wins, but number of titles. But what are they going to do? Are they going to kick Sainz out, or you think they're going to swap Leclerc? Personally, I think they're going to swap out. They're going to kick Sainz out, because Sainz is not at the level of Leclerc. Leclerc is still, I think he's 25. He's got plenty of years left. Like, if they get Lewis, they probably got him for 2 years max, probably.
Yeah.
Not everyone's freakishly superhuman like Alonso is, but I think it would be really silly. Yeah. If they can get Lewis, sure. But I think it would also be really silly to get rid of Leclerc. I think they need to keep him.
Well,
because he's the future.
Yeah. You're not building, I think, either way. Almost you're building if you have Leclerc, and maybe Lewis can come in and offer some things, but it's not like when they brought in Schumacher and rebuilt the team, in the early 2000s. It's not like that. It feels more like the Broncos bringing in Peyton Manning for 4 years to just win a couple Super Bowls and call it a day.
Or when Tampa Bay bought Brady.
Yeah, exactly. That's what we're.
Yeah.
But the thing is, I think that we're in an interesting era where immediate results are a little bit more attractive than building the team over the course of 10 years, which is fine, because I think it's just every race is this moment in time. So if Ferrari were to do that, absolutely, I think Sainz is out. And he won't have a hard time finding a seat, but there was some conversation though around who would then fill the seat at Mercedes. What do you think about that?
Who would fill the seat at Mercedes? They say if I don't think they would take Sainz because he's well, maybe they would because I think Sainz is a solid number 2. Like he's a Bottas. He's a Bottas site. Sorry, Valtteri. I love you. I really do. But he's not one of the. He's a good driver, but he's not one of the guys that has the magic. He's not a Max. He's not a George. He's not a Lando. I'm sorry. He's not. So, and obviously Mercedes grew George to be, he's their future. That's the succession plan. So maybe Sainz. God, who?
You know what I think? I think that there would be a real serious conversation around Lando. I think that Lando is very loyal to McLaren, and I think that he's supposed to be there for ever. But I really do think that they would go hard at him.
Oh, I think any team on the grid would jump at the chance to sign Lando. I mean, Red Bull even flat out said they tried to last year.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that would be a pretty phenomenal looking Mercedes team, and it would allow me to actually enjoy watching Mercedes for once.
Yeah, like I always said, I'll be much more a Mercedes fan when LH isn't there anymore because like him or hate him, I respect the guy what he's done, but he's not my favorite. So and then maybe Sainz could go back. Sainz could just go back to McLaren, maybe.
Which would make sense.
Yeah, I get Lando wants to be loyal. I respect that, but man. And I think in that business, you gotta be loyal to yourself first.
Yeah. Well, when you get a chance, Zach Brown was also on the latest official Formula One podcast. Yeah. And he knows what he's doing. But at the same time, splitting your time between Indy and. I mean, Indy's the same weekend as Monaco. There's just so much going on over there.
Oh, I'm going to be so hammered on Sunday. I'm going to drink champagne during Monaco, and then it's Indy 500.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's insane. But but I think that there is a little bit of, I don't know. I think who said to Danny Rick when he left, you shouldn't have trusted Zach Brown. There's definitely like a little bit of an aura of bad guy around it, and I think that when you get a second to jump ship to Mercedes, any of those top teams, like I think that they're going to take it. Lando would take it for sure.
Yeah, I mean, Mercedes isn't winning titles currently, but they're way ahead of McLaren.
Yeah. Well, so excuse me. Says last week you didn't get to hop on during my rant, but I talked about you. And I mentioned that you had the best line where you said that McLaren designed a tractor this year. It really is just a clunky piece of garbage.
Yeah. God. And McLaren, it's like, God, this team used to be such a, they were Mercedes in the 80s and the early 90s. It's like, they keep saying it's like, well, our infrastructure, our new wind tunnel, it's all going to be, finished this year. So really like 2025, we don't have an excuse. So I'm like, okay, fair enough. But if you guys are this bad in 2025, like just call it a day.
Yeah. Call it a day for sure.
You've been saying that for years. And it's like in 2020, they were third in the championship.
Mm-hmm.
In 2021, they slid to fourth. Last year they slid to fifth, and now they're fighting with Haas and Williams. I mean,
right. Yeah.
I don't. Yeah.
Which I think also is, I don't want to take anything away from Williams's new direction, and certainly Haas's sort of dedication to actually being a serious contender. So I think that the field, I think even regardless of the restrictions with cost, I still think that we would be seeing a more even field this year, no matter what.
Yeah, no, I mean, in credit to Williams, I mean, like they have made a step. Like Alex, like I'm really happy for Albon. Yeah, I kind of wish he was in a better car, and I kind of think after what he's done the past few years, he will be. Mm-hmm. Like he's doing similar things in the Williams that George Russell did.
Absolutely.
And Logan Sargent, yeah, he's had some rough weekends, but like he's doing better than Latifi.
Well, there is no Latifi this year, thank God. There's no one just crashing into people for no reason.
Yeah, he's had some rough weekends, but like he's faster than Latifi. Like he's definitely doing enough in a tough car to warrant being able to, he needs to be given a chance. Like I read that like Toto was pushing James Vowles to kick out Sargent and put Schumacher in the car. I'm like, no, Logan's trying, and America is an important market for F1. We need an we need an American driver. And Haas, I mean, what in 2020 and 2021, like I'm really frankly surprised they showed up half the time.
Yeah, definitely. But does that matter to you though, that does it matter to you personally that there's an American driver? Because to me, I don't care about anyone's anything. I just want to watch the best racers, but I get it, but I don't care who's what in this sport at all.
I don't really, but yeah, I don't care like that much, but at the same time, like there's a lot of racing in America. Most of it I don't like, but like there's a lot of racing in America. And I think it's, you see like when they go to Zandvoort and like how insane that place is for Max. Like I think for a market that, has 3 races this year, America, I think it's probably good that we have an American driver. I mean, I don't care that much, but I think it's probably good. And I found myself a little bit like kind of like unknowingly, like kind of rooting for the kid, because he is American. Anyway, but Williams has done way better. Haas has made a big step up. I mean, when you've got, essentially 4 top teams, I mean, that's what 2, 4, that's 8 of the 10 points places right there. So it makes it hard, but they're definitely, they have the opportunity to score points every week.
Definitely.
Which, previously they did not.
Right. Exactly. No, and it's a beautiful thing to watch, because, Haas is kind of our American team and Logan Sargent's kind of our American driver. But it's all beautifully sort of mixed up in this wonderful international sort of thing. So we do need to get to Monaco. But before that, you brought up something really interesting about having 3 races in the States, and how important that is for F1. And there was some conversation around it. I think the Formula Y podcast had a whole episode kind of about why there are 3 races. And there were a lot of reasons about it. And most of them most of them were about sort of America, the US being like a new market and an interested market. But the thing no one talked about was, why are there 3 races in the US? I think there are 3 races in the US because everyone wants to go to the US. Everyone wants to go to Miami, go to Vegas. Austin was our only one for a hot minute. So when we went in 2021, I mean, you were hard pressed to find another person from the States. Everyone was from everywhere. And I think that's the point. It's not necessarily to get people more interested in it who are in the States. I think it's more to get people who are outside of the States in and enjoy the race. And we have space here. We don't have infrastructure issues that you have in Imola, that you have in Monaco. We have nothing but room to bring people in and have a good time.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of money here. But yeah, like all the drivers love coming here. Like I guarantee you, at all of the US races, I mean, Ricardo. Yeah. Okay. Ricardo's been at 2 races so far. Australia, where he's from, and Miami.
Right.
I guarantee he'll be at Austin and Vegas.
Oh yeah.
They're Red Bull is going to parade him around like crazy. Yeah. I think a lot of the drivers have homes here. I know Lewis has homes in New York, and Ricardo has a home in LA.
Yeah.
There's a lot of like, glamour here. Look at all the celebrities that were on the grid in Miami.
It was crazy.
Yeah.
But fun. Yeah. And it's okay. get crazy because every race has its own personality, and Miami has its personality. Granted, let's not do the LL Cool J thing again, but everything else is pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah, the cool thing about the Miami race is Miami like has just its own inherent level of cheese, and the race we can kind of embrace that, which I'm kind of happy about.
Definitely.
Anyway, but
yeah,
I just think it's a huge market, and F1 seems to be going for the places where they can make the most money. It's why there's so many races in the Middle East.
Yeah, exactly. Makes sense. For sure. They're not necessarily destinations for fans, but that's the beauty of what Formula One does, is that you have sort of you have a race for everybody and a race for every reason and occasion, which is cool. Yeah. All right, let's take a quick break. Let's refresh our drinks and let's talk about Monaco. I haven't had a gin and tonic in a while, and I just happened to have it in the fridge, and I thought, well, I've been drinking martinis, been drinking like a lot of other things, but that gin and tonic sounded right from Monaco for some reason.
Yeah. Do I want to drink a gin and tonic during the race, or do I just want to drink bubbles?
Well, we will have bubbles on hand. Sarah's going to be doing mimosas, and I'm not sure what I'll do. Probably just straight bubbles. We'll see, because I think you just need to. I think Monaco feels like you got to have a celebration. Absolutely.
Yeah. It's a party atmosphere.
Yeah, definitely. But we'll admit, so one of the things, so Sundays are kind of a crazy wild day. And in this particular Sunday, so I will be watching the race probably more like around like 1 or 2 p.m., which, suits the drinking needs a little bit better as well. We want to do it early in the morning, but traveling around a little bit in the early afternoon won't allow it. So, but the thing is that is something interesting, that this is a sport that if you can avoid spoilers, it's the only sport I've ever watched not live and still was as excited as when it was live. It's interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, I get scared about not watching them live because I don't like to. I don't know. I guess that maybe I kind of like the. I don't know if ceremony is the right word, but I kind of like that I get up early to watch it. It's like it's just kind of like my thing,
Yes, definitely. The getting up early and watching it live, it makes you feel like you're doing something more. I don't know. It's like, not that you're better than everybody, but it's like getting up early to work out.
Yeah.
You're getting ahead of it. You're doing something no one else is doing. It's exciting. It's fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, obviously so this would have been a back-to-back-to-back week if Imola had happened.
Yeah. It was going to be a triple header. Now it's just a double header,
which is exciting. So we still have a double header to look forward to and enjoy. But Monaco in some ways is my favorite race of the year. And in some ways, it's a lot of people's least favorite, almost to the point that they don't want it anymore, which is crazy to me.
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely the thing of, that this is probably the race where qualifying is the most important because it's so hard to overtake. But the other crazy things can happen. It's, it's more about strategy because you can jump people when they pit and.
Well, let's look at last year. Because that's exactly what happened. Is the race exploded when Ferrari completely hosed their pit strategy, and that's the best example of why I love this race so much, because it's not about being fast on the straights. It's not about DRS. It's not about anything like that. This is about strategy, and this is about keeping your shit together on every turn, and I love that.
Yeah, and it's like in 2018 when Ricciardo's engine was 25% down on power.
Yes.
And he held off Vettel the entire time.
Mm-hmm. It's exciting. It's exciting. It's beautiful. And there's a lot going on. So we'll talk about last year real quick. So, the man who has been crowned the king of the streets was our winner last year in Checo. And it's exciting to have this guy who's kind of got this. He's almost like Alonso. He's not as old as Alonso, but he has this renewed life, vibrancy, to the point that he's actually challenging one of the greatest drivers of all time, even though he's only 25 or 26 or whatever, to possibly, the championship, which is really cool.
Yeah. Because up until he joined Red Bull, he was just a solid midfield guy. Mm-hmm. But thankfully, he had a really good year in 2020, and Red Bull needed a driver. And I think even then he was like, well, he's going to be a solid number 2.
Yes.
And, in 2021, that's what he was. In 2022, he started to come up a little bit. Now, yeah, and now this year, Max has won 5 races. No. How many races? Max has won one more than Checo, essentially.
Right.
So,
yeah. Which is amazing and awesome. I mean, a huge testament to what Red Bull is doing, but also what happens when a man finds his car and finds his team. Kind of like, Alonso was very successful in the mid 2000s and then floundered for a long time, and he found his team again. He found his car again. And I think Checo's just found his car. I think that you could put Max in a Toyota Prius and he'd still probably win because he just wills himself to the front. He's just that kind of guy, but other drivers require some sort of kismet, and I think that Checo has it this year. So it was Checo won, and Max was third last year. So Red Bull was 1-3 last year, right? Yeah, Sainz second, and Leclerc was fourth. So it was just it was a really interesting race in so many ways. But there's so much surrounding Charles and Monaco, being that he's from there, and I refuse to say the word that they say that they're from Monaco because it's disgusting and
Monegasque.
It's so stupid. It's so dumb. There's no letters in there that make any sense. But what do you think about Charles this year? I
mean, the guy is quick over one lap. He is good at Monaco. He has he got pole there in 2021. Yeah, 2021 and 2022. But he also there's the Monaco curse, because last year I think was the first time he's taken the checkered flag ever, because even in his junior career,
he
didn't
F2,
finish. Yeah, he did. Yeah, he didn't finish. So, the thing I like about Leclerc is he is up there with the Maxes to a certain extent. I don't think he's not a killer like Max is, but there's always my Mac fanboyism again. Sorry, not sorry. But he is really good at qualifying, and he does push the car, and he does push the limits. Yeah, maybe he's a little bit accident prone because of it, but he's probably got a decent shot at pole. But like they'll talk about, all these tracks are like, well, they're going to suit, certain cars. And I'm like, well, all the tracks suit the Red Bull basically. Yeah. So it's not like the Red Bull suddenly not going to work. Wow. What is happening? Why is there fuzz? Okay.
Yeah, so the one you bumped your headphones. I'm moving my notes around so I can do the proper thing that we're doing here.
Yeah.
So go ahead, continue, please.
So yeah, I think Leclerc is going to be a threat for pole on Saturday for sure. The Aston Martin is draggy in a straight line, but it's good in the slow corners. So I think Alonso is going to be a threat.
Mm-hmm.
Max and Checo will be a threat, obviously. So
I think it's absolutely anyone's game. It's super exciting, and one of the reasons why I think this race is one of the best is because it's because qualifying means so much. Mm-hmm. And so these guys are going to go out there and do what they have to do, and it's almost like they get a chance to be the best racer that they can be in this race because qualifying is so important to the race. There's just a different level of focus and determination that comes from this race.
Yeah, and qualifying in general, like I really, really like qualifying because like too. The cars are on low fuel. That's the fastest they're going to go the whole weekend. It's just like everybody's on the limit, just pushing it as far as they can go. That like the race pace is never as fast as quali pace. So I really like qualifying because it's just the guys going out there and just trying to haul ass, essentially. Mm-hmm. Yep.
And so on our background, the corner that's over our shoulder there, wait, where's the car at? Yeah, is that the corner where we saw a little bit of carnage last year, or am I thinking about a different one?
You talking about where Checo crashed?
Yeah, exactly.
That was going into the tunnel.
Oh, that's right. That's going into the tunnel. That's not right there. That's a different one. Just looks kind of
This
similar.
is the pool.
Okay. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, it is. But that's the kind of the crazy thing too about qualifying is that so much can happen in or even in practice, where a car goes into a turn and completely loses it and it ruins the whole thing or sets you up for a higher a grid position because of a crash or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's exciting, and it's qualifying to me is as exciting as the race in a lot of ways, especially, not just Monaco, honestly, like pretty much across the board.
No, I love quali. Quali's fun.
Mm-hmm. So let's talk about Alonso though. He's a guy who is a definite threat in this race. And I think that the Aston Martin is running in a certain particular kind of way that almost could be the one that's perfectly built for this, with a perfectly built driver for this particular race this year.
And speaking of which, Alonso's very good at making his car very wide. He's very good at defending too.
Which he did in 2005, was it? What year was the one?
Yeah, 05.
That they just
with
posted.
Schumacher. Yeah. He's very good at defending, and on Monaco, if he gets ahead, that's a problem for everyone.
Yeah, for sure.
So, and especially, I think the last I heard, like qualifying might be wet, but the race might be dry,
or vice versa. I've heard vice versa. I heard Saturday might be perfect weather, and then we're going to get rain on Sunday. So it'll be interesting.
It's going to be carnage.
Yeah, for sure. So before we get to, what I would really want to do is, I think it'd be super fun to, every week we choose our pole sitter, but then we also choose our podium. And, but before we get there, dark horse, who's going to surprise us this week in quali and in the race?
Who's going to surprise us?
Mm-hmm. Oh, and I should say too. So here's the thing about our predictions. I want to completely sever the connection. No, not sever. I want to connect the connection between our bias and our love for drivers and things, and connect it to what we actually think could happen. So it doesn't have to be completely black and white. Like pick from your heart.
Am I going first or are you going first?
I want you to go first. Do you want me to go first? Because I've been thinking about it. Okay, so my dark horse is Lando. I think that if the stupid McLaren stays together, he could be in the top 10 because the kid's just good. And I think that if he can manhandle that John Deere the right kind of way, I think he could qualify and finish in the top 10, I think.
The orange deer or the papaya deer.
Yeah, the orange stag.
Yeah. Dark horse.
I have a second dark horse, but I don't want to say it because I think you might come up with it too.
Dark horse. Dark horse. I'm going to say Carlos Sainz. He goes good around Monaco.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. I think Sainz. Like, I'm not a huge Sainz fan, but he seems to do pretty well around Monaco.
Mm-hmm. I don't think there's any reason to also count out Yuki. I mean, he's like a 10-10-11 sort of guy, and I think that he's surprising a lot of people. Even though he was such a prodigy coming in, I think even he's using a really kind of boring car and doing some good stuff with it.
Well, I mean, talk about a guy that's told to step up and did step up.
Yeah, for sure. Maybe the most annoying character on Drive to Survive, but we're going to the worst, right?
Yeah. Oh God. I just want to just stop.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
All right. Pole sitter. Who's getting pole? And the thing is, speak from your heart, but also let's just eliminate like possible, crashes, engine failure, all that kind of stuff. Like who, if all things go perfectly, is going to sit on pole this weekend?
Well, okay. So pole sitter, Max, it seems like he's really good at like the second run in Q3. He's really good at laying it down.
Mm-hmm.
And with that, taking into account like there's obviously always a real chance of there being a red flag in Q3 and no one getting a second run in.
Mm-hmm.
So as much as my
Sounds
dogs
like
are.
someone's drinking water back there.
Hey, guys.
That's funny.
My dogs are wrestling on the couch.
That's funny.
Pole sitter. As much as it pains me, I think I'm gonna. Sorry, Max. I think I gotta go. I think Leclerc's gonna put it on pole.
Nice.
He did in Baku twice, the sprint and the Grand Prix.
Yeah.
He's been on pole the last 2 years. I bet it's gonna be Leclerc, and it hurts me a little, but
no, it's okay because I'm giving it to Nando. I think Fernando's gonna I think he'll pull it off. I think he's gonna do it. Something about just his vibe lately. I feel like he's the one.
Yeah, I could also see that as well, and I won't be mad about it at all.
Mm-hmm. All right, so you've got Charles on pole. I've got Fernando. Okay, so let's go with 1, 2, 3.
The podium.
Yep.
Some might say I'm going safe, but I'm going by what he's doing. I've still got Max winning.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna put Nando P2.
Okay.
And Ferrari eats its tires, so Checo's gonna be P3.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna go same podium, different mashup. I'm gonna say Fernando sticks with it. He stays P1 the whole way. And then Checo Max. Even though, I think I would love to see Max win, but I think that this would be a beautiful moment for Fernando to take it. And then I think Checo's going to qualify a little bit higher. And I don't think team orders exist this year in Red Bull, at least so far.
Not yet.
I think they're going to let him race.
Yeah, not yet.
And see what happens.
I think one of them is going to have to get at least a race win up.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas their teammate could win a race and still the other guy will still be in ahead. I think it's got to be at least a race win, maybe 2. Or maybe not. So far it seems like it's going to be between Max and Checo. So, maybe if another team doesn't get involved, maybe it'll just be, nope, you guys got to earn it.
Well, that's an interesting point because I think that as the days go by, we're not going to see Max and Checo fall out of the running for 1-2, but we are going to see is other racers like Fernando and Ferrari, really kind of do some jumbling up between the 1-2 chase between Fernando and Max. Checo and Max.
Yeah, I would really like to see as much a Red Bull fan as as much as a Red Bull fan that I am, I'm probably going to be sad if Nando doesn't at least get one this year.
Right. Oh my God. I hope he gets at least one, if not more. The dude's driving out of his mind. He's become a beautiful man. I mean, he always was, but he's just showing a different side of himself that we've never seen before, which I love.
And I personally, I would love to see Max and Checo go wheel to wheel.
Dude, I feel 100%.
I think they're very much cut from the same cloth. I don't think either one of them is going to get butt hurt if one races the other one hard, No,
all of that nonsense about Max's dad not respecting Checo and this and that. It's all BS. I mean, if there's one person that Max's dad's been mean to, it's Max. And that's why he's as great as he is. And so if he's being mean to Checo as well, it's because he believes in him. It's because he loves him, because he thinks he's worthy of the title.
And, I don't think even Yas is being rude. I think Yas has a resting bitch face.
1 billion. Not only that, but I mean, he comes from cold, icy, blood where people don't do that. They don't show affection and love and all that stuff. And that's just who he is. And I think that, look, here's the thing. You don't become a great racer. You don't become a great comedian the comedians and racing car drivers are the same. You don't become those things unless you had a little bit of a rough childhood, because there's nothing to
100%. Like, yeah, I mean, all of the greats, Senna, Schumacher, Prost to an extent, you know, Nando, ruthless AF.
Yeah.
You know, no prisoners.
Even Hunt and Lauda, like, just completely, there's love-hate, but there's also just an intense level of, if I have to, like, rip your eyeballs out, I will.
Yeah.
To win this. Yeah.
Yeah. I will do what I have to. If that involves maiming you, so be it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that's a little bit like last year, when I still feel like it's a bit silly, but when Max wouldn't even give up a P6 to Checo, it's like, okay, that's a bit much. But at the same time, I'm like, keep your foot on their throat. That's just, that's what you do.
And no love lost and no love, gained. It was just how it was. Yeah. I don't think that either of them, because if you reverse the roles, Checo would have done the same thing.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And like I said, Yas was an F1 driver for, I think, 10 years, and he didn't have, I don't think he won any races. He definitely didn't win any titles. And so his son wants to be an F1 driver. So guess what? He's going to try to make sure his son doesn't make the same mistakes.
Exactly. And he makes no mistakes. And if he does, he still wins. Yeah. It's crazy. Yeah.
Well, like, did you watch that video I sent you earlier today?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, it was shout out to Aldous, his YouTube channel. He's really good, but saying is basically like, of all of the races Max has been in where he has seen the checkered flag, he has only been outside of the points one time, even in a Toro Rosso.
So crazy.
Yeah.
It's so crazy. There was a stat that the guys brought up on F1 with DRS. That was something similar. I don't remember it exactly. But it was something like, of the hundreds of races he's raced in the Formula Series, there's like been like 4 races that he didn't get points or whatever it was, like even in like Formula 2 and all that stuff. It was a bonkers stat that just doesn't exist amongst any other driver, and he just clearly loves it. And let's not gloss over the fact that this year the dude has matured beyond belief. Like the way that he carries himself, the way that he talks to reporters is just a different level. It's totally different. Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely think getting that first one where he had to slay the king. Mm-hmm. He was a usurper, and he definitely learned a lot. And also I think he has learned now, but I think part of it is he's in a different position. He's the guy with a target on his back. So I think he's learned it's like, it's not the end of the world if I get second, because I'm still going to bag a lot of points, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Well, and he's not scared, intimidated, put down by being the guy with the target on his back. Yeah. In fact, it fuels him in a way. I mean, Miami was bonkers, just watching him just take that car from ninth as far as he did. It was just so crazy to watch. Yeah,
and that's not even the first time he did it. Like, was it Spa last year?
14th or 12th?
I think 14th.
Yeah.
And he spun out. Or was that Hungary? No, I think it was Spa. Oh, Hungary. But 14th, and just like, it's just like I was listening to some today where they're like, it's not expected, it's inevitable.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Exactly. Well, that's the kind of the fun thing as we wrap it up. That's the fun thing about this year so far, is that the drivers in particular, when they're talking about the race, the competition, they all just say, we're not racing Red Bull. They're in their own league. Yeah. We're racing Mercedes, Ferrari, Alpine. That's what we're doing right now. We're not racing Red Bull. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah, and people like they're so quick to say, "Oh, it's boring." I was like,
Mm-mm.
"No, part of the game is building the car." Like,
Mhm.
and yeah, and also they have two great drivers, and like so it's boring that one team was just did it so much better.
Right. Well, and and don't be annoyed by the fact that there's one team doing it so much better. If that bothers you, well, then stop paying attention and watch Alpine, Mercedes, and Aston Martin race. Watch that world. Enjoy the 3, 4, 5, 6, place. Like that's the thing about F1 is that we're not, even though it's very likely that Red Bull's going to run away with constructors and the drivers championship. It's still fun to watch the top 10 fight it out.
Well, yeah, because now I mean I think we've got at least a three-way battle, maybe a four-way if Alpine stops tripping over their own dick.
Right.
Like for P2 in the championship.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what's exciting is to watch that. And then we have this opportunity to watch guys like George like really come into his own and start doing something surprising, and watch Charles and I mean, I don't know, man. I'm loving watching Fernando just drive his heart out and just enjoy it. It's crazy fun.
Yeah, I mean, he's I think with Fernando, like some people have short memories. He's the guy that knocked Schumacher off the mountain. I mean, so it's like, and he's still racing in his 40s, and there's all this crap about he's slowing down. No, he's not.
Mm-mm. No, and there's so much fuel around his. Like the whole Taylor Swift thing was really interesting because it was clearly like this complete nonsensical thing happening, but it just, I don't know, added to the legend in a way that was super exciting and fun.
Well, yeah, because like he didn't I don't think they were actually dating, but like he didn't just start like, no, we're not dating. He just like played along.
Yeah.
That was like the best part about it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, this was great. I'm very excited for the race. Can't wait to see what happens. But want to thank everybody for listening to the second episode of F Wonderful. What did I call it? A podcast for the F1 enthusiast, which is what we are. We're enthusiasts. We're not experts. We're just blabbing. All right, everybody. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.